I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, spilling my guts about how my wife, Lisa, screwed me over in the most humiliating way possible, but here I am. We'd been married for 5 years, a pretty normal relationship on the surface. Great job, decent friends, and honestly, I thought we were happy, or at least I did. Looking back, there were little signs. She started canceling plans, acting distant, and I caught her lying about where she was sometimes, but I figured it was just work stress or something. Women can get sneaky and still tell you they're honest, right? That's the thing about trust. I always thought I knew her, but I was dead wrong. We booked this honeymoon cruise for our anniversary, a big trip she'd been hyping up for months. She always wanted something glamorous, and I wanted to give her that. I believed in us and our future, so I was excited too. It was supposed to be romantic, relaxing, a fresh start. But from the moment we boarded, I had this weird feeling in my stomach, like I'd forgotten something, or maybe like I was walking into a trap. She was overly friendly with the crew, flirtatious in a way that seemed just a little too casual, and she kept whispering into her phone, acting secretive. Little things, but enough to make me suspicious. I told myself I was paranoid. She's probably just enjoying the attention or maybe trying to get back at me for some reason I didn't see. The first real sign was when I saw her texting late at night, late enough that it was suspicious. I peeked at her phone while she was in the bathroom and saw a series of messages, something about seeing him again and can't wait to be with you. My heart stopped. The name in those texts was Mike. That was her best man, Jake. The guy she had been teasing me about for months, saying he was just a friend. But clearly that was a lie. I mean, I knew they'd been close, but I never suspected it was like that. My stomach clenched. I felt sick. I couldn't believe it. My wife, my partner, was cheating on me with my best man. On our honeymoon. And the worst part, they were probably doing this right under my nose, right on that very ship while I was out trying to make her happy. I started paying more attention. She'd been acting odd, jittery, defensive when I asked about her phone. She'd say she was just texting her sister or that I was imagining things. But I knew better. It was all a lie. I remembered her snapping at me when I caught her glancing at her phone too long, her dismissive attitude whenever I tried to talk about how I was feeling. I even saw her sneaking off to the spa alone, claiming she was going for a massage. I later found out she was meeting Jake there. I got proof that day. I walked in on them in the spa, him sitting there shirtless, her leaning in close, whispering something I couldn't hear. Her face was flushed, her eyes darting around like a thief caught in the act. I wanted to scream, but I froze. The betrayal was like a punch to the gut, so sudden, so complete. I'd always thought I was a good husband, maybe not perfect, but honest, loyal, committed. And here she was, just throwing it all away because apparently I wasn't enough. She lied for months, probably even before the trip. And I was just too blind or too trusting to see it coming. I remember feeling numb, then furious. How could she do this? How could she be so bitchy, so dismissive of me, and yet spend her time sneaking around with the guy I considered my best friend? It hit me hard that she had no respect for me or what we had, that she thought she could get away with it, that I'd never find out, but I found out. And once I did, everything changed. Once I saw them in that spa, everything shifted inside me. It was like a switch flipped. Suddenly I was furious, hurt, disappointed all at once. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but something inside me held back. Instead, I decided to play it cool, gather evidence, and figure out just how deep this rabbit hole went. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that moment in my mind, the way she looked, the way Jake looked, like they were caught in a secret they thought was safe. My mind was racing with questions I didn't have answers to. The next morning I started observing her more carefully. She was already acting different, less affectionate, more defensive. Every time I asked her about her plans, she'd brush me off, pout, or give some bullshit excuse about needing space or stress from work. But I knew better. I had seen her with Jake, and I knew exactly what they'd been up to. I felt sick every time I saw her lie, which was more often than I wanted. I even pretended to be oblivious, acting like everything was fine, just so I could catch her reaction when she slipped up again. That afternoon, I decided I needed to see what she was up to when she was alone. I followed her to the spa again, keeping my distance. She went in and I waited outside, pretending to be just another passenger. Not long after, she emerged with a smirk on her face, and I saw Jake's name pop up on her phone again. I felt my blood boil. I was about to lose it, my wife, my best friend, all of it falling apart on this damn cruise. That's when I overheard her talking to some girl in the hallway about meeting Jake later that night. She was openly bragging about how hot Jake still looked and how she couldn't wait to spend private time with him. That was it. I knew I'd need to act fast. I wanted to expose her in front of everyone, but I also knew that if I did, I'd lose everything. My dignity, my marriage, maybe even my reputation. So I decided to plan a more subtle, calculated move. I needed proof, undeniable proof, that I could confront her with. I started secretly recording their texts, taking screenshots of their messages, and even hid a small camera in the cabin. I didn't want to miss a thing. Every lie, every secret rendezvous, I was determined to catch her in the act. Meanwhile, her attitude kept getting worse. She was bitchy, dismissive, like she was trying to push me away even more. That's when I realized she didn't care about me anymore. She was already planning to leave me, or maybe she just wanted to have her fun before dropping the bomb. She was so relentless with her lies, so dismissive of my feelings, that I started to feel numb. It was like I was watching my life fall apart in slow motion, and I was powerless to stop. The betrayal was so raw, so in your face, I couldn't even process how I felt at first. All I knew was that I had to find out exactly how far she'd go, and I was determined to make her regret it. After gathering all the evidence I could find, I knew I had enough to confront her. I waited until the evening when Lisa had gone out to meet friends, and I set my plan in motion. I hid the camera in the cabin just where I knew she'd look, and I made sure my phone was recording everything. I was shaking, part anger, part heartbreak, because I knew once I did this there was no going back. But I also knew I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I deserved the truth, and I deserved respect. When Lisa returned that night, she was more snippy than usual. She immediately started with her typical bitchy attitude, dismissing me when I asked how her day was. I kept my cool, but inside I was boiling. Then she went into the bathroom, leaving her phone on the nightstand. I grabbed it, unlocked it with her fingerprint. She'd been careless enough to leave it unlocked, and started scrolling through her messages. What I found made my stomach turn. They'd been talking all day, planning secret meetups, exchanging flirty texts, even talking about how hot Jake still looked. There were screenshots of their conversations, naked pictures she'd sent, explicit talk about what they'd do when they were alone. I read it all, every word. My hands trembled, my jaw clenched, and my mind raced with a flood of emotions: betrayal, rage, heartbreak. I could see the physical proof of everything she'd been hiding, but I didn't want her to know I was onto her yet. I kept the evidence, pretended everything was normal, and waited for the right moment. I told myself I needed to stay calm. If I lost my temper now, I'd blow everything. I was planning my next move, which was to confront her directly, but in a way that would leave her speechless. I knew I had to catch her in the act again, maybe even with Jake. I wanted her to understand that I knew everything, that I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. The next day, I watched her act even more distant and bitchy. She snapped at me over small things, like I was inconveniencing her. That's when I decided to call her bluff. I told her I knew about Jake, about their secret meetups, and I played the recording I kept hidden on my phone. Her face twisted into a mask of fury and denial, but the evidence was undeniable. She spun some bullshit about how it's not what it looks like, that Jake was just a friend, that I was overreacting. She even had the nerve to call me paranoid or jealous. I was furious, but I stayed composed. I looked her dead in the eyes and told her that I had everything on tape, every message, every photo. I told her I wasn't going to tolerate her lies anymore, that I deserved honesty, respect, and fidelity. Her reaction was a mix of outrage and disdain. She sneered, said I was just being jealous, and that I was imagining things because I didn't satisfy her anymore. She accused me of being insecure, of ruining everything just because I was possessive. I couldn't believe how she lied, how she twisted everything, trying to turn it around on me. Inside, I felt a crushing mix of humiliation and anger. I'd always thought I was a good husband, faithful, supportive, patient. And now I was standing here hearing her lie so easily, so dismissively, like I was just some piece of crap she could discard. The betrayal cut deep. At that moment, I realized that all the love I'd given her was meaningless to her, that I was just an obstacle in her game, a thing to be used and thrown away. I was humiliated, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I had to decide what to do next, whether to fight for what we had or finally walk away. That night, after her tantrum and her little lies about how innocent she was, I sat alone in the cabin and played that recording again. Her voice, her words, the images that I'd captured. It was like I was listening to my worst nightmare. She lied with such ease, like she didn't care at all about how much she'd hurt me. I felt sick, humiliated, betrayed, and more than anything, furious. I'd always thought I was a good man, that I deserved honesty, and here she was, just spitting in my face. I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. My entire world was crashing down around me, and I had to decide whether I was going to fight for us or finally walk away. I thought about confronting her again, maybe breaking down right in front of her, but I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. No, I needed to be strategic. I had the evidence, I had her caught dead to rights, and I was going to use it. Next, I decided to set the trap. I knew she was planning to meet Jake again that night. I also knew she was planning to lie her way out of it, so I prepped one last move. I left her a note telling her I knew everything, every lie, every betrayal, and that I was done. I told her I'd be waiting outside the ship where she couldn't see me. I left my phone recording just in case she tried to deny or cover her tracks. Then I waited. Heart pounding, stomach twisting, I watched her from the balcony. It was almost like some sick game, watching her get ready, trying to hide her guilty face, pretending. She was innocent. She slipped out of the cabin, looking over her shoulder, clutching her purse. I followed her discreetly, staying a few steps behind, trying to breathe normally. She headed toward the ship's rear, toward the spa again, where I had seen her and Jake the day before. What happened next, oh man, I'll never forget it. I saw her meet him in the dimly lit corridor, their heads close, whispering. I got close enough to hear her say, "Tonight's the night, Jake. Can't wait to finally be with you." My blood ran cold. That was the moment I knew I had enough. This was it. I was going to end the lies once and for all. I took out my phone, turned on the camera, and recorded everything. I was ready for the confrontation. When she saw me, her face twisted in shock, like she hadn't expected me to be there. She tried to play it off, acting innocent, acting like she was just going for a walk or something equally stupid. But I wasn't buying it. I told her I'd caught her so many times that I knew everything. I played the recording from my phone, and her face turned pale. Her eyes darted around, trying to deny it, to lie her way out, but I had her dead to rights. She started crying, trying to manipulate me, saying how she was sorry, how she didn't mean to hurt me, that it was just sex, just a mistake. She threw in every cliché she could think of. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything, it's just sex. But I knew better, I knew her. She was a bitch, a liar, someone who could do this and not even feel guilty. Watching her try to beg her way out was almost too much. I felt like I was losing my mind, angry, humiliated, broken. But I also knew I couldn't let her get away with it. I wanted her to know that I wasn't a fool anymore. I was done being played. That night, I finally walked away from her, leaving her standing there, crying and trying to explain. I didn't want to listen. I just wanted her gone from my life. I knew I had to face the truth. My marriage was over. The person I trusted was just a cheat, a liar, and I'd been a fool to believe I could fix this. I felt empty, but at least I finally had clarity. It was the end of the line, and I knew I was going to have to rebuild everything: my trust, my life, my sense of worth. And let me tell you, that's a lot easier said than done. The aftermath hit me harder than I expected. I stayed on the ship for a while after that night, pretending to be indifferent, but inside I was a mess. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw a man who'd just been betrayed in the worst way possible. Lisa was still on board, acting distant, bitchy, and somehow even more contemptuous now that she knew I had uncovered her lies. Her face in those final moments when I played the recording for her was etched with guilt, but she tried to hide it. She spat out some bullshit about how she didn't want things to end this way, that she loved me, but she was just lost. Yeah, right. Lost enough to cheat on her own honeymoon and lie straight to my face. I felt like I was drowning in a whirlwind of emotions, anger, heartbreak, and a sickening sense of betrayal. The hardest part was knowing I'd given her so much loyalty, so much trust, only to be used and discarded like a piece of trash. That's when it really sank in. Before that trip, I thought I knew her. Now I knew she was just a bitchy, selfish liar who didn't care about us. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Every smile, every touch, every word felt fake. She was a stranger in my eyes. I decided I had to leave that ship. I booked the earliest flight back home alone, packed my things, and didn't say a word to her as I headed to the airport. I didn't want to hear her fake apologies or her crocodile tears. Honestly, I was too exhausted to fight anymore. All I wanted was to get away from her, to breathe again, and figure out what the hell I was going to do next. The flight home was quiet. My mind kept replaying everything: the discovery, the confrontation, her lies. It was like I couldn't escape the image of her sneaking around with Jake, laughing behind my back. When I got back home, I faced the brutal reality. Our marriage was over. I told her I wanted a divorce. She argued, of course, claiming she'd changed, that it was just a mistake, that she loved me. But I didn't believe her anymore. To me, she was just a manipulative, bitchy woman who thought she could get away with anything. I realized I'd wasted enough time trying to fix something that was already broken beyond repair. In the days that followed, I blocked her on everything: phone, social media, even her emails. I started seeing a counselor, trying to process what had happened. The pain of betrayal is a deep wound, but I knew I had to heal for myself. I also learned something crucial: never trust blindly. People can hide their true selves behind fake smiles and sweet words. I thought I had a good marriage, but it was all a lie. Now I had to rebuild my life piece by piece, knowing I'd been played. Looking back, I'm still angry, angrier than I thought I could be. But I also feel a strange sense of relief. I don't have to pretend anymore. I don't have to lie to myself about what she was. I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do after betrayal is walk away, even if it hurts like hell. Because staying would only mean more pain, more lies. I'm not perfect, and I'm still figuring out how to trust again, but I know now that I deserve someone who respects me, not someone who cheats behind my back. And if there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's that honesty and loyalty are everything. Without them, all you're left with is a hollow shell of what could have been. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize how much I've been through and how a betrayal like this changes you. It's not just the shock of discovering an affair. It's the slow erosion of trust, the feeling of being played like a fool, and the pain of knowing someone you loved and trusted could so easily throw it all away for a quick fuck. No amount of apologies or fake tears can undo what's been done. And truthfully, I don't want to hear her excuses anymore. I've learned the hard way that some people just aren't worth the effort, especially when they're so selfish and manipulative. What's worse is that I saw the ways she tried to manipulate me even after I discovered the truth. Her bitchy attitude, her dismissiveness, her constant lying. She thought she could keep spinning her web of deception and I'd stay blind. But I didn't. I saw through it. I saw her for what she really was: a woman who only cared about herself, who used her beauty and charm to get what she wanted, even if it meant destroying her marriage. That realization hurt more than anything. It's one thing to be cheated on. It's another to see that the person you thought loved you only cared about their own pleasure and ego. Moving forward, I know I'll have to pick up the pieces of my life. It's not going to be easy, trusting again, finding someone who truly respects me and building a new foundation. But I also know I'll be better for it. I'll learn to listen to my gut, to recognize the signs of deception early on, and most importantly, to respect myself enough not to accept betrayal. Because no matter how much I loved her, I can't change a person who's determined to lie and cheat. To anyone out there who's going through the same thing, I'll say this: don't ignore the signs, no matter how small they seem. Keep your eyes open. Don't be afraid to confront the uncomfortable truth. And above all, don't stay in a situation where you're being disrespected and lied to. It's painful, but in the end, it's necessary. You deserve honesty and loyalty. Don't settle for less. I've learned that the hard way, and I hope anyone reading this takes it to heart. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But somewhere out there, there's someone who will value you for real. And when you find them, hold on to it, because life's too short to waste on people who only take and never give back.